In a significant shift in diplomatic relations, Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney has chosen Europe over Washington for his first international visit, signaling a potential reshaping of North American alliances. Our senior diplomatic correspondent James Bazina reports, breaking with tradition where Canadian leaders typically made their first foreign trip to Washington, Carney's decision to visit Paris and London has sent ripples through diplomatic circles. This move comes as Canada-US relations face tensions over trade tariffs and defense concerns. Carney, the former governor of both the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, brings economic expertise to this diplomatic chess game. During meetings with French President Macron and British leadership, including King Charles, Carney emphasized Canada's desire to diversify partnerships beyond North America. "We are not going to make the future of our defense industry dependent on a single country," Carney stated, addressing the F-35 program's kill switch issue. This reflects growing unease about Canada's military technology dependence on Washington. The timing is significant as Canada, with its vast natural resources, seeks to reduce economic vulnerability to U.S. policies. Recent U.S. tariffs have pushed Ottawa to explore alternative partnerships. In Paris, discussions centered on defense and technology cooperation, with Macron proposing joint working groups. London meetings focused on financial partnerships, leveraging Carney's previous role. This strategic pivot comes as Canadian public opinion supports reducing dependence on U.S. markets. However, experts caution that diversifying away from the world's largest economy presents challenges. The move represents a significant test of U.S.-Canada relations. As Ottawa embraces European partnerships, Washington is considering retaliatory measures against what it views as a diplomatic slight. Reporting from Ottawa, I'm James Bazina. In a dramatic shift in North American relations, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is orchestrating a strategic divorce from U.S. dominance, sparking debate about continental cooperation amid escalating tensions between the Allies, centered on trade disputes and defense sovereignty. Carney, with his background as an economist, has embarked on diversifying Canada's international partnerships, particularly with European allies. This shift stems from U.S. tariffs affecting Canadian industries and concerns over defense autonomy. Central to this rift is the $13 billion F-35 fighter jet project. Canada is considering canceling its participation, following revelations about a potential kill switch, software allowing Washington to disable these aircraft remotely, giving the U.S. control over Canadian military assets. "We must have a say in our national defense," declared Carney, addressing sovereignty concerns. This stance has gained domestic support among Canadians weary of U.S. pressure. Carney has initiated talks with European leaders, notably French President Macron and British Prime Minister Starmer. These meetings have produced preliminary agreements on energy and defense cooperation. Negotiations with German and French defense manufacturers could lead to alternative military procurement plans, marking a departure from U.S.-Canadian military collaboration. The British Prime Minister emphasized Canadian sovereignty during meetings at 10 Downing Street. Two sovereign allies, so much in common. A shared history, shared values, a shared king, Starmer noted, avoiding commentary on U.S.-Canada tensions. Carney's response to suggestions of seeking international validation was clear. "We don't need another country to affirm our sovereignty. We are sovereign." The implications for North American security cooperation remain uncertain, but Canada's new direction marks a historic shift in continental dynamics, potentially reshaping Western alliance structures. In a significant shift in North American relations, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is orchestrating a dramatic pivot away from traditional U.S. partnerships, sending shockwaves through Washington. During recent visits to London and Paris, Carney has made it clear that Canada will no longer accept unilateral pressure from the United States. The catalyst for this diplomatic earthquake? Trump's aggressive tariff policies on Canadian steel, aluminum, and automotive sectors, combined with growing concerns over defense sovereignty. The most contentious issue centers around the F-35 fighter jet program, where allegations of a U.S.-controlled kill switch have raised security concerns in Ottawa. "We will not give in to unilateral pressure," Carney declared, following his meeting with King Charles III at Buckingham Palace. "Canada is fortunate to have a determined defender of our sovereign state." French President Macron emphasized that tariffs only lead to inflation and damage supply chains. The European response signals a potential realignment of Western alliances, with Canada seeking new partnerships across the Atlantic. Most alarming for Washington is Canada's threat to redirect its energy resources to European and Asian markets. For decades, Canadian resources have been the backbone of U.S. industrial supply chains. Now, that relationship is under serious reconsideration. The tension extends beyond trade into territorial disputes, particularly in the Arctic region. As ice caps melt, Canada is pushing back against U.S. attempts to classify these waters as international. "We will sit at the table with Europe. We will increase our trade with Asia," Carney stated, outlining a future where Canada's interests are no longer tethered exclusively to its southern neighbor. This stance represents the most significant challenge to U.S.-Canada relations in recent memory, with implications that could reshape North American geopolitics for decades to come. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is leading his nation toward increased independence from U.S. influence, particularly in defense matters. The controversy surrounding the F-35 fighter jet program has become a flashpoint in deteriorating bilateral relations. At the heart of the dispute is the alleged existence of a kill switch in F-35 systems, which could potentially allow the U.S. to disable the aircraft remotely. This revelation has sparked serious security concerns among Canadian officials. "We cannot rely on systems we don't fully control," Carney stated in Paris, where he's been building stronger ties with European allies. The former Bank of England governor is leveraging his European connections to explore alternative defense partnerships. French President Macron has welcomed Canadian interest, stating that Europe needs reliable partners in North America. France and Germany are developing their own fighter jet programs, which Canada might join. The U.S. administration appears concerned about losing its grip on its northern neighbor, with ongoing tensions with Mexico and China already straining resources. Washington might consider retaliatory measures, including new tariffs and trade restrictions. Carney's stance has domestic support, with polls showing Canadians backing a tougher position against U.S. impositions. However, opposition politicians warn of potential economic consequences in the energy and automotive sectors. The dispute extends beyond defense, touching on Arctic sovereignty and economic relations. Carney's administration argues that diversification toward European and Asian markets will strengthen Canada's position. Market analysts warn of global implications. With U.S. markets already volatile, the potential disruption of U.S.-Canadian trade relations has investors nervous, with reports indicating $1.7 trillion in market value at risk. In a dramatic shift, Prime Minister Mark Carney's Canada is forging new alliances with European powers, potentially ending decades of U.S.-dominated partnerships. Sources in Paris and London confirm preparations for agreements in automotive manufacturing, energy cooperation, and defense technology. "This isn't your father's Canada anymore," notes political analyst James Morrison. "We're witnessing a historic realignment that could alter North American dynamics." High-level meetings in Paris have focused on defense technology and cybersecurity initiatives, while London discussions center on post-Brexit trade. Brussels is eyeing increased Canadian LNG purchases to reduce European dependence on Russian energy. The Carney administration's strategic use of retaliatory tariffs combined with a pivot toward European and Asian markets is raising concerns in Washington. This comes amid the F-35 kill switch debate, symbolizing Canadian military independence. Market analysts warn investors of intensifying trade tensions. As one Wall Street veteran states, "When Canada and America are pitted against each other, this trade war will intensify." The key question: is this a permanent shift in North American relations or a negotiating tactic? Arctic sovereignty and defense cooperation hang in the balance. France and Canada are exploring military technology sharing agreements, while the UK fast-tracks trade deals with Ottawa. A new transatlantic alliance structure may be emerging, with Canada as a bridge between Europe and North America, bypassing Washington for Brussels and London. Carney's Canada is clearly challenging the status quo. Whether this leads to a lasting rift in North American relations or forces a new compromise remains to be seen. The coming weeks could prove decisive as Washington weighs its response to this Canadian gambit. For updates on this developing story, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications.